Hey guys, Karn here. So I'm going to show you guys my Mouseover macros. Let me grab these heroics real quick. We're going to do the heroic daily of Oculus, but one of my beautiful, amazing viewers asked to see what my Mouseover macros look like. And I'm absolutely going to provide that today. I have these Mouseover macros. You can see show tooltip taunt. That way whenever I mouse over here, it shows what taunt is, and it shows the actual ability icon instead of like this one over here where it just says mount has a question mark. That doesn't really show what ability it is whenever I'm looking at the action bar, which I rarely do, by the way. A good goal to set for yourself is to be able to cast your rotation and your abilities without looking at your action bar. That's also why for cooldowns and stuff you want to use things like weak auras, because it'll put it in the center of your screen right here. You can see the cooldown for everything. That way you don't have to look at the action bar. Ideally, you want to get yourself to the point to where you don't need it and you just keep it up, like I do, to keep it up to quickly drag and drop. So, do here and there little miscellaneous stuff. And plus I like how it looks in the UI, so whatever. But here we have /cast, which means you're telling the macro to cast this ability. Then in between the brackets, it's going to define where you want that ability cast to. So you have @Mouseover, which means wherever this is at. Harm means enemy, means not a friendly. I'll show you the difference right now before I do the rest of the add-on, or not the add-on, the macro, because I have one for vigilance here. Help. So help is for friendly targets, and harm is for enemy targets, is like the easiest way I could put it. And then the most important part you want to make sure you put everywhere is no dead, as in it's an actually a live target. You'll see I even do that on the friendly targets as well, no dead. And notice there are other brackets on this one, but I could actually editing Karn here, so I just wanted to touch over one thing since I didn't talk about it on stream when I was going over this. But the app player section you're about to see me delete from this vigilance macro is another layer to it, to where it says if you don't have a target moused over that you can cast the ability on, if you don't have a target selected for that ability, it'll automatically cast it to you. However, with vigilance, that doesn't work because it only applies to other targets. You can't apply it to yourself. So essentially how that would work is, let's say you want to use a healing spell on somebody, or a buff. Say you want to buff somebody. If you don't have a friendly target you can buff moused over, and you don't have a target you can buff selected, as in targeted, then that buff will automatically self-cast to you. So that's how the app player bracket functions when it comes to macros. Clean this up a little bit by closing out this part of the macro. Let me just make sure that's the end. Okay, save that one. But help, @Mouseover, harm, no dead. Those are all the criteria listed for the Mouseover target of my taunt. Now, notice there's a second pair of brackets, but this first pair of brackets means if I'm mousing over an enemy target because of the harm that's alive, it'll taunt on that one. Then in the second pair of brackets, no spaces, no commas, no nothing, just second pair of brackets. What you want to do is just harm. That way it'll count it as, let's say you're targeting an enemy, but your mouse is not targeted over an enemy. You might be doing this, like I do this a lot in dungeons, of you're holding down the right mouse to control your camera, maybe in a spot of movement, and it'll hit that real quick, and it'll hit the target you are currently targeting. And then just the ability taunt. You just make sure you put a space after those brackets. Then for vigilance, you do the same thing. @Mouseover, help, no dead, which means mousing over a friendly target that is alive. So I think vigilance is to party members. Yeah, group or raid target. So let's take this real quick, and I'll give you a quick example once we get inside. We're doing a Oculus. Oculus. Okay, here we go. One sec. So, what you're gonna see is I'm gonna target Uwu, but I'm gonna mouse over and cast Vigilance on Ruby, and you're gonna see the little shield icon come over around Ruby. And because the first part of that macro is the @mouseover macro. So watch. You see? Even though I'm targeting Owuga, it casts the ability on Ruby because the way the macro is set up, it does this one first, and if there's nothing that satisfies the criteria set for the first set of brackets, then it goes to the second set of brackets, and so on and so forth. If you have like 4 different ones, I don't know what you would do for 4 different ones, then that'll be how it turns out. I have the same thing for taunt, intercept, not taunt, but charge, intercept, intervene, all of them. Intervene, I have the friendly macro set up, and for charge, intercept, I obviously have the harm one. He's going. Demo shout real quick, interrupt. Stun. Ooh. Can someone kill these spellcasters, please? Like you say, you always want to use concussive blow. You always want to be using these abilities, always. Keep them in rotation. Notice that my shockwave is up, but I'm not going to cast it because I'm specifically going to use that on the next pack. I'm going to charge, interrupt him, intercept. You'll see. Watch. Shield slam. He's not going to do it. Oh, he's dead. As they move up. Intercept. Target, kill. Kill. Berserker Rage, charge, shield block, spell reflect. Keep it moving. Cleave, shield slam, cleave revenge, interrupt, pull them together, taunt, thunderclap. Shockwave them, make sure these 2 die. I didn't have to do the intercept, not to intercept the shockwave, I just did it because I wanted to. You just want to make sure you're using everything. Because while you may not need it to clear the content, it's still valuable to use and cast, and it makes the run a lot easier. That's why we're in spell power. Anyways. Fuck the power sap, interrupt that. So these are things you always want to be watching out for as a warrior tank. Hit Blood Rage to make sure I have a rage pool whenever I charge in. I'm going to interrupt, which I have on the mouse wheel. Mouse wheel up is heroic strike, mouse wheel down is cleave. I'm going to charge in, pop this other macro I have for a trinket, which is /use 13, which is this slot right here. Whatever trinket I put in this slot, it'll use. Cast shield block. Let's see. Yes. See, trinkets on cooldown, shield blocks on cooldown. It used both of those in the same one. You can do that for trinkets and cooldown spells, and not everything you can think of, because if your ability that you have on there causes a GCD, like the cooldown rotation that you see right here, how that goes around, then you'll need to do likely a cast sequence. Probably be the easiest way to do it. But I don't really tinker around with cast sequence macros. The best I did was one during Veilistras in like Vanilla Classic, where all I had there was it put me to Berserker stance, cast Recklessness, equip certain items, put me back to dual wield, put me back to defensive stance. Guess I'm gonna do this one. I thought I had that on G. I must have changed that. Oh wait, wrong one. Wrong one.
Need something? See to it personally that the Oculus does not fall into
Oh, it's right there. Yeah, anyways, sorry, a little distracted. That's the essence of Mouseover macros. The goal is to write it in a way that where you can either mouse over real quick, as clicking the target, find the target and clicking it takes extra time. And you want to cut all that time out, make the process as easy as possible. That way you don't have to worry about it. And that's essentially how Mouseover macros work. Let me show you the charge and intercept ones real quick, but it's essentially the same thing. Pound sign, hashtag, I guess, kids. Hashtag tooltip or show tooltip charge at cast Mouseover harm, no dead, harm. You notice there's spaces in these and no spaces in these commas, but spaces in this one, the spaces don't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. It's just white space for the code. It's not going to affect the macro or prevent it from working. So whichever one you're more comfortable with, start using. What are these guys doing? Alright, whatever. Let's get this going. Group them up. Shockwave. Interrupt. I don't have a macro for concussive blow, but that is one I just now thought I should definitely do, because that would have helped out a lot right there. Just the reason why you want to do Mouseover macros for abilities like that, one I would even do for Sunder, honestly, is because, like I said in my previous video, there are times where the mob you want to stun or interrupt is not the mob you need to be building threat on right now. Like, there's a difference between the two. Just because they're casting an ability you don't want them to cast doesn't mean that's the mob you need to be targeting and should be the primary target for your shield slams and stuff like that. Just like that. See how I was targeting this conjurer, but I interrupted that sorceress? That's the nature of it. Interrupt. Yeah, so then from here we'll just do a normal Oculus, like, whatever. No big. Like, Mouseover macros, it's fantastic. Like, I know I keep saying they're fantastic. They're fantastic. They're fantastic. But I literally can't tell you how necessary they are to hitting that next level of gameplay. Because otherwise you're wasting a lot of time trying to move your mouse around, make sure you're targeting the mob you intend to be targeting, or they intend to interrupt, intend to taunt, intend to do this and that. Like, watch. I'm gonna target him, taunt him. Ready? Him, taunt. You see the taunt there? There you go. Mouseover. Actually, while we're at it, let's talk about how useful jumping is as a tank. You see how these mobs are facing me like this? What you could do is run through them and then turn, or instead, what you could do, interrupt that real quick, is run, jump, and then turn. That way to make sure you're always facing the mobs, because with warriors, especially, and paladins count for this too, if actually, not everybody. We just have an increased block chance because we use our shields. But if you're not facing the mob, then you cannot block and parry. You can still dodge and they can still miss. But if they're hitting you from behind, that's why you, as DPS, you always want to attack a mob from behind. Is because that's, it's like the least chance to miss an attack. It's not going to get blocked, it's not going to get parried, therefore you do much more DPS. But that's the reason why DPS are always encouraged to attack from behind the boss, and that's why as a tank you're always encouraged to make sure you turn the boss around whenever you pull them. It's really important. And same goes on the reverse side of it too. Yeah, same goes on the reverse side too. If you're not facing the mob, especially as a tank, then you can't block it or parry it, which means you're going to take a significantly more. You see how I just turned it around right there? Turn the mob around and look how the DPS are attacking it from behind. Let me dodge that mechanic real quick. Oh, Rejuve, you're a raider. I know you know better. You see how I jumped around him like that? The jumping is incredibly useful as a tank too. And the reason why is sometimes you need mobility, but you also need to make sure you're constantly facing the boss. One thing I just did right here that you never want to do is do not cast your shield block and then immediately shockwave. Shield block is a 40-second cooldown. It's fantastic to make sure you have high revenge uptime, which does a lot of damage and a lot of threat. Do not use shield block if you intend to shockwave. Shockwave, and then in the last like half second that the mobs are about to go down, or come back up from being CC'd, then you put up revenge. Like, let me show you. Then you put up shield block. Do this, stun them. You see the timer, 1, 0, shield block. That way once it comes up, you're blocking everything, and it helps improve your mitigation. Because the problem is, if you shockwave and then all the mobs are still up by the time they come up, then guess what? You're now taking all that damage unmitigated because you don't have shield block. And what if you need shield block in that moment they come up? You don't have it. You already fucked it. That's another thing, is cast shockwave first before you shield block. Because you're also going to have packs like in Halls of Lightning, I can remember some, where some mobs in a pack are immune to stun by shockwave, and the other ones are like, some will get stunned, others won't. Shockwave first. If you still have like the big hitter mobs in that pack up, then go ahead and hit shield block while the mobs are stunned. Because the point of shield block is to make sure you have most of your damage mitigated. What it does is it increases the block value and chance of block and block rating and block value by 100% for both. It's fantastic. I did that in the complete wrong order, but that's alright. Actually, no, I didn't. That's a typical order that pugs do. Alright. Move to this side. The reason I'm doing this is you cast that there, it does good damage, like that shit does a lot of damage, and it also slows you. And then he does this mechanic where he ports to the middle of the room. And you have to hide behind one of these pillars right here. And that frostbomb up, there's a teleport.
Find shelter.
Run. You should have just enough time. Unless you're a tree. So maybe I was a little too far this way. Maybe bring him, like, maybe start here, and then bring him a little over right here. That way you can just go straight diagonally. That probably would have been better placement. But still. Actually, where am I going? Got a portrait down anyway. Oh, I did complete daily. Oh wait, no, we're not even done yet. Ooh, I almost ported out of this bitch. We still have, not Malagos, but Aragos? I think his name's Aragos? Yeah, Aragos.